Hey, what's up? Hope you're good. Today I want to talk about camera stuff, specifically budget cameras, because I think that's important when we're making videos. We always want something that looks good, but also a lot of the times when you're just one person with a job and you don't have a ton of money to spend, a lot of cameras are out of reach, so it ends up just being either whatever you have or whatever you can get your hands on. So I want to try to show that you don't need a lot and that what you do need is pretty basic equipment and you can kind of get it anywhere. For example, the camera that I'm shooting this with right now is my Canon M50, which I will go into why I love that camera and why everybody loves that camera a little later. I actually have a special guest talking about that, but I love this camera. It has so many features. I'll talk about all of them that I love and that I use all the time, and it's not expensive at all. The other cameras that I use a lot are the Canon T5, which I picked up from a pawn shop for $90, and it is definitely more of a photo camera than a video camera. That was by design, but it is just within the first generation that Canon started rolling out cameras that could do 1080p 30 video, which is all you really need for content like this. And the lens that comes with it is good. I do have gripes about it, but it was a cheap camera and it does exactly what I need to do for my secondary camera. And then of course we can't talk about cameras without talking about my phone, which is the iPhone 17, normal, not Pro or Pro Max or whatever, because the camera on this is quite impressive. In fact, it's so much more impressive than my iPhone 14 that I had previously that I use this on videos a lot now, especially the improvements to the ultra-wide camera are incredible. And again, I'm going to talk about that in a second. But first, let me go over why you don't need an expensive camera. Let's move this somewhere. Real quick before I reposition myself, please check out TOSKABYSS's video on some basic videography stuff that he just put out recently. I'll link it up in the cards right here and down in the description. It is so entirely helpful and it will help you grasp the concepts that I'm going to be briefly going over in the video. Good? Alright. Cool. So the reason you don't need an expensive camera is because cheap cameras can do it all. These days you can get a really inexpensive camera and it'll do everything that you need it to. For example, my cheapest camera, which is... You thought I was gonna pull out the T5. No, it's my phone, because I need a phone. The camera came with it. And this might be awful of me, but I've been using the default camera app and it's fine. You can change your resolution and frame rate in it, and yeah, that's kind of all you need to get started. If you want to get more advanced, you can get apps like the Blackmagic camera, which will get you some really awesome manual controls for making sure your shots look perfect. So you can adjust stuff like aperture, shutter speed, a whole bunch of stuff like that that you would be able to adjust on a normal camera like the one that I'm recording with right now. And to be honest, the videos look pretty darn good, depending on the angle, especially if you are in a situation where you have a lot of light happening. Even though these have really humongous apertures because they're built for low light stuff, because people are taking pictures in random places and they're not always going to be like, ooh, hold on, let me bring my light with me to get this shot. They're like, alright, you're under a tree, that looks cool. Even though the apertures are huge on phone cameras, the sensor is just not big, so it can't bring in a whole bunch of light, as opposed to something like this where the aperture is, you know, maybe a little smaller. So instead of a f1.6, it's an f2. The sensor is so much bigger, so it's bringing in so much more light, and that way you get less graininess from cranking your ISO way too high. So like I said, in normal good light settings, these do really well. I like to use my phone's camera when I'm recording shorts about my CS15 and my Juno because it's right next to a window. So during the daytime, there is perfect light for a perfect shot that just looks really excellent. Whereas if I bring it over to these, it doesn't look quite as good because I just have a lamp next to it and that's not nearly as strong as daylight. Now my next less expensive camera, which is the Canon T5, we're going to talk about this. And there are a few things that I don't like about it that are video-centric. Very obvious is that it doesn't have a flip-out screen like my M50 does. So this screen is fixed in place, whereas I am looking at myself in that camera because the screen flips out. And that is really important for making sure you get yourself in frame in a shot, because you can always see if you get other stuff in the frame, but if you're recording yourself, you gotta see if you're in frame, and it's really helpful to know that while you're recording. Next thing that I don't like is this is from an era where 1080p 30 was fine and you didn't need anything more than that. So it doesn't shoot in 1080p 60 for really nice action shots. It also doesn't shoot in 4K at all. And that is a little disappointing, but also I don't typically shoot in 60 frames or in 4K. 4K is more due to a limitation with the camera that I'm using right now, which I will have somebody else talk about. Another thing about this, and probably honestly my last gripe about it, is just that the autofocus in video is so bad. It is incredibly bad. There's no continuous autofocus in video on this camera. You have to manually hold the shutter button every time you want to focus on something. You know, this works really excellently as a B camera because I can just set it and forget it. It's always focused on the same thing for, you know, each individual shot, so I don't have to worry about continuous autofocus. But in situations where maybe I'm moving around or stuff is moving around, either you have to go ham with the manual focus and hope you get it right, or just be really good at it, which I'm not, or you just have to wait for it to focus because it takes forever to focus and it has to do its depth perception thing for like 10 seconds every time. But otherwise, this is a really good video camera. The lens on it is quite good. The resolution is exactly where it needs to be. One thing I love about this camera is that the battery on it is ridiculous. It lasts so long. I think I had to charge this twice during January when I was doing one short video every day. It doesn't have the ability to add a microphone input to it, but that's not that big of a deal considering I usually capture my audio either on my computer, via my audio interface and my microphone that's sitting right here, or via my phone, which has a really good microphone built in. This is a little bit on the chunky side for something that you want to just like carry around and whatever, which is why I love the M50 because it's so small, but this works really well. Doesn't have the humongous aperture like the M50 or my phone have to get nice shots with bokeh, but there is a workaround if you have enough light, and that is zooming all the way in. Now, I figured out this trick on accident around 5 or 6 years ago when I was using my really crappy digital camera that I got from a thrift store, and I realized the bokeh on the shots close up didn't look that good, but when you stepped back and zoomed in, they looked really good. So I carried that knowledge with me, and now I use that all the time with my Canon T5 and occasionally on my M50. But honestly, and we're gonna talk about this one next, the 22mm STM lens that you can get for it has such incredible bokeh and low light performance anyway, it doesn't really matter. You don't have to think about the zoom trick because the depth of field of this camera is just beautiful. The lens is, it's excellent. So we're gonna talk about that one next, and in order to do so, because I want a nice microphone, I'm gonna switch to my phone instead of the T5, because like I said, it doesn't support a microphone. Okay, now we talk about the M50, and I love this camera so much. First of all, let's appreciate how tiny it is. Like, here's how it fits in my hand. You can almost fit it in your pocket with this little lens. Secondly, the thing I already mentioned, which is the flip out screen, which is awesome for framing yourself in shots. I love that. Third is something that it has over the T5, which is the support for a microphone, which is really nice. Fourth is the fact that it has the support for a lot of STM lenses, which are really good for video because they mean you get a lot less focusing noise, and they focus wicked fast and so accurately. And then let's take a step back here and look at the UI of this camera, because it is so intuitive to use, and you can just get to everything with this little menu here. You can set your white balance, you can set your frame rate, autofocus, all of that stuff, which is really awesome. And yeah, it is just beautiful to use, and I really enjoy it. I think my only gripes about this camera are, firstly, the battery does not last long at all. I always have to keep this camera off whenever I am not using it because the battery will just go right out. The autofocus on it though is absolutely delicious. Let me detach it from its stand here. And I will take it around and point it at various things without touching the shutter button, and look how fast that focuses on everything. It is just so good. It just focuses wicked fast and it's wicked accurate, and it is just overall very, very good. My favorite lens for the M50 is the 22mm lens that you can get for it. Beautiful STM lens, and it doesn't have zoom, but it does have manual focus if you would like, with this little digital ring here, and it is so good. It's great for bokeh shots. I think my only complaint about it is that it is not quite as wide as I would like, which is where the kit lens comes in. This is also an STM lens. It's not quite as small, but it goes all the way down to 15, so you can get nice wide shots with this. And of course it goes up to 45 because it's a zoom lens, so you can get nice and zoomed in. The bokeh isn't quite on the same level as this because of that gigantic aperture that this has. I think this is an f2, whereas this is like an f4.5 or something like that. I can't quite remember. But both are really excellent lenses. I would highly recommend having both. For the T5, I have the kit lens, which is an 18 to 55. And this one is crazy. I have a zoom lens that is a 75 to 300. And that's really good for either, as silly as it sounds, doing shots from the other room where you want really crazy bokeh, or, you know, obviously using it for its intended purpose, which is zoom shots. So, camera number 1, Canon M50, really love it. Camera number 2, Canon T5, pretty good, solid for a B camera. Camera number 3, which is my phone. Okay, so now I want you to hear from my friend TOSKABYSS about why he loves this very camera that I'm using, which is, again, the Canon M50. So take it away, dude. Let's hear it.
Hey, what's up? I love this camera so much that I have 2 of them. Canon has discontinued the M50 and the M50 Mark II, so you can get a used one of these for as low as $350. Canon also discontinued the EFM mount lens, which means that there are a ton of affordable used lenses online. For example, this 25mm lens cost me $45. If you are somebody who films outside of your house, this is sort of nice because it's small, lightweight, and it doesn't bring a ton of attention. Take a look at this. It almost fits inside your pocket, which is really nice. Something that's annoying about the Canon M50, there's autofocus on the 4K, but it doesn't function, so you might as well not use it. Also, whenever you shoot in 4K, it crops it down, and you're already on a crop sensor, so that is a little bit of a challenge. But if you're using something like this 25mm lens, it's not a big deal because it's wide open. Here's a 25mm lens. I'm about 2 feet away. Look at all this space. And then here's the 25mm at 4K, so I'm kind of tight in here. This is a $45 lens. I think it looks pretty good. You can also get your hands on one of these, EFM to EF lens adapter, which allows you to use any of the EF lenses. So it opens you up to a bunch of other options. For example, here is the 85mm 1.8, which is awesome for portraits, and also if you can just get yourself enough distance from your subject. This is the 85mm lens. This stuff behind me is super blurry. I think I'm about 7 feet away from the camera. Nice. This one's sick. Another great option is the EF 50mm or the Nifty 50. This thing is crazy. It looks so good, you don't even have to try. And you can get one of these for like $75. I'm currently using a Nifty 50 on this lens that I'm recording this video, and I think that it looks pretty good. This whole setup ran me like $450. There's lenses that are more than that. I think it punches way above its price point. I think it's a great camera, and I think you should get one if you don't have one already.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Like you said, this is such a pocketable camera and you can do so much with it, especially because the M mount is dead, so you can just get lenses for super cheap, and they're really good lenses too. Now, my parting wisdom for you will be, if you have a camera that works and it shoots in a format that you like 1080p 24 or 1080p 30 or even 4K 24 or 30, and you like the functionality of the camera, like you like the usability of it and the features and whatever, but you just don't like the images that you're getting out of it, I would implore you to experiment with different situations and different lenses. First, try different situations, like try moving the camera around, try different light sources, see what works, try different white balances, try different angles, try getting really close, try getting really far away and zooming in. And then, if all else fails, go out and try a new lens. Lenses are cheap. You can get one for like between $30 and $100. And if you get a lens that pertains to your situation, like you're having trouble with low light performance, get a big aperture lens. Get a big old like f1.6 or something. And that will completely transform your camera experience. This 22mm lens completely changed how this camera looks. The regular lens looks just fine, and it works just fine for most things, but the 22 has such great low light performance, and the bokeh of the gigantic aperture really close up just works beautifully. So yeah, go out and experiment with some stuff. Try not to spend a ton of money. Go to pawn shops and try to find some lenses or a basic B camera if you're wanting to experiment with multiple shots. It's all really worth it, and you can get away with not spending a whole lot of money to get your cameras looking really good. And when all else fails, just use your phone camera. Like I said, it looks really good, especially if you have a newer phone. And if you're willing to dive into the manual controls, you can get it to look even better. So thanks for watching. Hopefully this was helpful. If you want me to do more camera videos in the future where I talk about camera stuff, about a specific camera, about general concepts, whatever, let me know down in the description. But hopefully you enjoyed it and it was helpful. Until the next video, I'll see ya. Take care.